Let's go back to Rasan Bahati. Rasan.
We started this morning, 8:30, with the inaugural women's race here at the 2025 Maryland Cycling Classic. Temperatures were in the 70s. Now it is time for the men. 107 miles on tap here in the beautiful Charm City, the Bay, the riders, but the temperature has turned up. The high today is 85. The humidity has tipped up just a little bit, but we're going to see a fast race. 107 miles. I think they're going to do it just around 4 hours, and just in moments' time, these riders from 15 different countries will be on the streets of Baltimore tackling the 2025 Maryland Cycling Classic.
We've entered the launch code.
89 riders from 13 teams, 6 riders per team, almost 108 miles, 6 laps of an 18-mile course, and we are about to roll.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, right here, right now, the biggest race in America is underway. Vaya con Dios, gentlemen.
So they roll out from Harbor Point. A neutralized start here, so the race hasn't begun officially yet. But we are underway on this first of 6 laps for the men in their 3rd edition of the Maryland Cycling Classic, the biggest professional bike race in America. And Taylor, they're going to get a look here at this section of cobbles that's just about 500 meters long that they will tackle 6 times altogether on the day.
Yeah, you know, any cobble section, you're going to feel it. You don't have any suspension on those bikes. You got those skinny little tires. It's not the longest cobble section in the world, but it's you're going to feel it. You saw in the women's race that it was selective, and there's chances for flats, crashes. You can see that the bunch is already pretty nervous right from the start. Anytime it's fanned out completely like that, it means that riders want to be in the front. Quinn Simmons flying the American flag.
The most tenacious facial hair in the peloton, too, Quinn Simmons.
He definitely has powerful hair.
And these cobbles are over 200 years old, so they're not the smooth pavement that you might see that basically serve a cosmetic purpose on roads these days. These are legit. These are the real things that are very uneven. They're choppy, and you will feel it under your tires throughout the course of a race like this.
Yeah, and Fells Point down there, 2nd largest point of immigration to the U.S. after New York's Ellis Island. Here we go.
And the racing going to start in earnest pretty quickly. Obviously, you get the attacks right when you get past that neutralized section. But when you consider the layout of this race, 6 laps of an 18-mile circuit, overall, big picture, very early, what are you expecting from this race?
You know, I would say maybe 5, 6, 8 years ago, there would be a group of 4 or 5, mostly continental teams, young riders that would go off the front in a breakaway, and the teams would control from behind. But the way that the trends are moving in cycling is more about having action from the start and then whittling down over the course of the race. So let's see if we get an early break. I think it's going to be action for a little while. It's not a straightforward flat course by any means, so it's going to be hard in the back there.
All right, to get the full picture of the canvas they are racing on, let's take you into Baltimore here. And this brand new course, first time they've ever raced this course in what is the third year of competition for the men. It's the same finish we've had in the 2 previous years, but a different course beyond that. You go through Patterson Park, one of the oldest urban parks in the country, and then at this point, you're heading north past the Washington Monument all the way to the King of the Mountains climb, which is at the furthest end of the course, the northernmost port right here. And then from here, you head back down south, and it's largely downhill all the way back to the end of each lap. But the organizers said that they wanted to make a different course this year from what we've seen in the past. In the previous 2 editions, it rolled out into Baltimore County, the rolling hills, a more countryside feel to the race, more elevation gain. This time, the course is entirely in the city of Baltimore, so you have that city sort of urban feel to the course, but you don't sacrifice the climbing or the technical corners. You still have a lot of different features that will impact the race. The only difference is it's entirely in the city of Baltimore, showcasing the culture, the different landmarks, the scenic nature of Baltimore these days, and riding through a lot of different neighborhoods. This is a city of old and new when it comes to neighborhoods, and you see a lot of different ones along this course today.
220 neighborhoods in this city. I didn't count myself, but that is what I've learned.
Once you get up beyond 200, you're going to take somebody's word for it, right?
Yes. This they actually start to drag up a little bit after they make this left-hand turn around the park, and this could be a strong moment for the breakaway. You know, it's no matter where you are in the peloton, as you can see the road. This is America, right? These roads are largely straight, but it doesn't mean that they don't go up. And it's not easy anywhere you are in the peloton here, especially if you're at the back and you got guys flying off the front. But it will be yo-yoing for a little while here.
All right, so we are underway. The first of 6 laps in the men's race here. 105 miles left to go in the Maryland Cycling Classic. Again, sunny skies, somewhat of a breeze, but the temperature is warm. It is in the mid-80s. It is very humid, and there is a threat of rain as this afternoon unfolds. Could be another hour or 2 before it rolls in, but that's the forecast. We could have thunderstorms, gusty winds, maybe even hail and lightning. We shall see. For the moment, just hot and dry.
Yeah, those afternoon summer storms. They can be powerful. There was one a couple days ago when I was on my way up here, and that's going to change the dynamic of the race significantly. We're not going to claim that we are meteorologists and we know it's going to happen with the weather, but that is what the forecast is calling. So let's see. For now, beautiful Baltimorean summer, late summer, autumn day.
Yeah, my weather skills only go so far. If you want to know about the pollen count or the mold or whatever else is in the air, you're going to have to go elsewhere. I can give you hot, I can give you humid, and that's about where it ends. And for these riders, if it just stays hot and humid, that in and of itself, forget about potential precipitation, but hot and humid can certainly take its toll too.
Yeah, you know, the nice thing about having a circuit course is that you have ample opportunities to pick up bottles, which means you don't have to think so much about feed zones and the like. So these riders with the team cars behind, and then with ample opportunity to grab feed on the side of the road, they're going to be hydrated. But for sure, it's an important part of the race.
Now, one rider dangling off the front here of this field, still like working their way here through this first lap. How big of a break, Taylor, would you expect to form in a race like this? Again, just a one-day circuit race. How big of a gap and how much time do you think they would get on a day like today?
Well, you know, sort of like what I was saying earlier, it seems that 6-7 years ago, it would be a more traditional group of, let's say, between 5 and maximum 10. But as we've seen in this edition in the years prior, the breakaway, I think 2 years ago, was 30 riders. So at that point, it's more of a selection than what you would call a breakaway. That could be a breakaway in the Tour de France towards the late stages, last couple weeks of the race, because you have teams behind that are with the yellow jersey that are going to control. But in a one-day race like this, if the World Tour teams end up in a large selection off the front of the race, then they have no reason to chase that group back, which ultimately then means that the race is up in the front. So I'm expecting something like that, although let's see.
Yeah, everybody comes to a race like this with different ambitions, different goals, different riders to accomplish all of those goals. There are different ways to skin a cat, different ways to win a one-day event such as this. And a reminder that we also have different competitions within the competition. We have a King of the Mountains jersey that will be awarded to the rider who does the best on the signature climb, which is at the northernmost point of the course. We will see that in a little while. And now we see a few individual riders getting clear of the field here in this selection trying to form. And riders kind of seeing who's going to make the group. This is that part of the race, as you know, where you might get a rider who goes off the front and then he waits to see who's going to join him, hoping that he won't be alone for too long and hoping that the right group coalesces at the front to have enough horsepower to get some time over the field.
Yeah, this is a Novo Nordisk rider who's been off the front for the last K or so. Medellin riders come up to him, the Colombian team, the team of Oscar Sevilla.
And just to finish the thought on the competitions beyond just the overall classification, we have the King of the Mountains and also a sprint competition. You will have the King of the Mountains points awarded at every time they go up the signature climb. The sprint only happens after the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth lap. So at the end of this first lap, there won't be any sprint points, but every lap after that, there will be points. And those points are the same for the King of the Mountains and for the sprints. 4, 2, and 1 point for the first three each time at both selections.
Yeah, so those two riders are Hamish Armit and Victor Ocampo. Hamish Armit from Novo Nordisk and Ocampo from Team Medellin.
This is the Monument Park area and the Washington Monument they are going by. The oldest Washington Monument in the country, by the way, older than the one in nearby D.C. Small section of cobbles they have to navigate as well, but they tackle that pretty easily.
Yeah, as you can tell, this is quite a large group now that's made some separation from the main pack. Luckily, we got these drone shots, but when it's strung out like that, you know all the guys are at their limit, even though we just started this race.
I mean, they are really flying. It's creating some damage at the back here. They are not waiting.
Well, this course is sneaky, you know. It's on paper, it doesn't look like it's that hard, but it's relentless. It's undulating. You know, you're going through all these different neighborhoods, a lot of stray roads. Mentally, that's honestly fatiguing. You don't have anywhere to hide, and you can just see the race as you can now up in front of you. Huge selection, big gap in between these two groups.
First part of the course gradually uphill as it goes from south to north. You hit the King of the Mountains climb and then turns back south, and it's largely downhill all the way to the end of each lap. That's a Union Station off to the right there, going across this bridge and making a hard left. But as is usually the case here in the U.S., wide roads for this peloton. Oftentimes in the European races, you have very narrow roads, a lot of traffic furniture, but here in the U.S., typically wide roads, imperfect pavement, but you don't have those pinch points and bottlenecks that you often see in some of the European races over the course of the season.
The only place I've been with perfect pavement is Switzerland. The rest of the world, especially Italy, very imperfect pavement. This Falls Road is not such a big road and also very nice. Next to this river, got some cool graffiti on these buildings on the side.
All right, still trying to see if anybody can get away. It has been a fast, heavy tempo here. The field pretty strung out here, still on lap number 1 in Baltimore. We dip inside of 100 miles left to go here in this men's race. Still the first of 6 laps on an 18-mile circuit. 3,868 feet of climbing altogether for the men today. 1 King of the Mountains climb that they will do 6 different times. And the intermediate sprint at the end of every lap except the first. And now things settling back down here after a ferocious start. Some very fast riding, aggressive tactics, but now things relenting somewhat here in the field.
Yeah, you see Education First, you see Little Trek up there. I think we just saw Brandon McNulty giving it a little dig. And the thing about the wide roads is it makes it very easy to pass. So anybody who wants to go for it, they can go for it.
All right, so while the men's race unfolds on the left-hand side of your screen, enjoy the women's podium presentation over on the right.
The honor of presenting our silver medalist here. Thanks again, Eric, for having us in Baltimore. It has been amazing. What a cool city. So let's meet our silver medal winner. You're lucky, man. This is one of the most famous women in the sport. Paris-Roubaix Femme Avec Swift champion, your silver medal winner. It's the Canadian champ, way to knock off Allison Jackson. Man, there's some good vibes on this podium. You don't always have to win a bike race to win life, and both these ladies won life today. Next up, we've reserved the top step of the podium for our outright champion. And I want to introduce to you my champion of Baltimore. This man is amazing. He's the president of the Maryland Sports Corporation, the cornerstone of this event, Terry Hazeltine. Terry, with our champion's jersey. Thank you, Terry. So Terry has a chance to congratulate the silver and bronze medals, but now, ladies and gentlemen, time to introduce from the world-renowned Canyon SRAM Zonda Crypto team. This is your champion standard, Agnieszka Skalniak-Sojka, Pride of Poland! So, 2 World Tour Danger women and an American champion on our podium here in Maryland. That's a beautiful one. Terry presenting our champion's jersey from Athlos. Big thank you to Matt back here for creating our winner's jersey. Lickety-split here. As is the tradition now, our Polish champion for the Canyon SRAM team in what was a photo finish with Allison Jackson. Agnieszka Skalniak-Sojka, Allison Jackson from Education First only, and Emma Langley from the Aegis Cycling team. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you for an amazing show. One more time for the crowd here. And thank you again to Terry, Eric, and Maze. It's time for the champagne. And these ladies have some experience. To the victor go the spoils. These really are the gladiators of the sport, without any question. So I can't thank all these women for coming and making it a special, special experience here in Baltimore. These are your champions, Baltimore!
was an exciting finish in the women's race. Came down to the photo at the end. The top two didn't even know who had won. They had to wait for the images just like everybody else. And now the men out on the roads here as the women finish up their podium presentation. This is the first of 6 laps for this men's race. 98 miles still to go. And still waiting to see what kind of a selection or group we might get at the front here. You've seen some attacking and some aggressive racing, but nothing is stuck so far.
Yeah, we got EF moving up on the left here. We've seen Skyline being very active at the front. Team USA, young team, they're excited to be here. So everybody's going for it.
Big sports weekend here in Baltimore. Not only do you have this Maryland Cycling Classic, the biggest professional race in the U.S. taking place today, you also have the Dodgers in town for a 3-game weekend series against the Orioles at Camden Yards, which is only about a half a mile away from the finish. And they have the 30th anniversary celebration of Cal Ripken breaking Luke Gehrig's record for most consecutive games played. That ceremony will take place before the Dodgers game with the Orioles tonight. And then the Baltimore Ravens kicking off their NFL season north of here in Buffalo against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. That's tomorrow. Maybe the biggest sports weekend all season long in Baltimore. And that is John Kelly of Kelly Benefits helping to give out the Queen of the Mountains jersey. Henrietta Christie of the EF Education Oatly team. She locked up that Queen of the Mountains jersey before they even climbed the final ascent for the last time. She was first the initial few times they went up and had an insurmountable lead before they went up for the final time. So congratulations to her. She wins the Queen of the Mountains competition here today in the first women's edition of the Maryland Cycling Classic.
Looks like the road tightens up a bit there. They're getting close to the right turn to head up to their first time up the KOM. We will surely see some attacks fly. It seems that they are all a bit neutralized, waiting for that right turn and that start of the climb.
And that climb, not an overly difficult one, obviously not like something you would see in the Alps or the Rocky Mountains, but it'll still sting. About 8% in some sections. It averages 7%. And now starting that climb. The actual climb itself is just inside of 1K long. And this will take them up to the most northern point on the course.
Yeah, you know, any climb can sting. Any climb will sting, especially one that doesn't go down immediately afterwards. So there's quite a lot of chance for somebody over the top to gain a gap. You know, you'll see the main damage done perhaps during the climb, but it's over the top when things start to get tactical. Education First going for it on the far left side of the peloton there.
And there is a little false flat once you get to the top of the climb before it starts going downhill as well. Back end of the field here on this half-mile climb. There's an EF Education rider in the pink who we saw trying to get up the left-hand side of the road on this climb, and now some others coming across as well. So there is several riders trying to bridge from the field up to what is looking to be a select group here. We'll see if this sticks.
Yeah, we've got Uno X, Education First, Tudor, Team Medellin, Total Energy, Skyline, Mauro Schmidt coming up, Lidl Trek. So a lot of representation in this little group. You can see Novo Nordisk trying to bridge across, and some Team USA riders think this will be neutralized. But good composition. These are the sort of compositions that we're looking for if we're looking for a breakaway to stick.
Sometimes on a climb like this, riders will try to get to the front and get enough of a gap that once they get to the top, they have a margin to where they can perhaps stay away if there's no serious chase this early in a race. But right here, it looks like things are still very much together. Single file and no real gaps opening up.
Yeah, this is Mauro Schmidt. This is a little bit what I was talking about, you know, is the climb makes it hurt, but it's over the top when everybody, you know, the heart rate is high. That's when that's the moment, as Philippe Gilbert would call it. When it's the hardest and you think you're gonna rest, that's when the best they launch and you never see them again. So Mauro Schmidt definitely putting in some work. It's all still together here, but anytime it's strung out like this, nobody's got an easy ride.
Yeah, all it takes is that one moment, right? A little bit of inattention. Somebody makes a move when you're not expecting it, and it doesn't have to be a sustained type of situation. It can happen quickly, and if you're not ready for it, the gap opens up and it starts small, but then it just grows.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like a pretty big group coming off the front there. That's dangerous right there.
Well, now, Taylor, as you know, the question is there's so many teams up here in this group. It's a matter of if teams have riders in that group, who's going to chase?
Exactly. That's what I was saying from the start. It looked like Quinn Simmons was coming up to take that speed into warp, that group into warp speed.
Well, as the men's race unfolds here, still on the first of their 6 laps. There's a familiar face handing out the sprint jersey. All in the family here today for the Finney squad. Mom.
Is that my mom?
That's your mom. What do I have to tell you?
Mom, what are you doing here?
Did you make her buy you dinner last night?
No comment.
I would. I'm just telling you, I would.
I would.
Yeah, okay, good. I wouldn't make your mom buy me dinner, just to clarify. I'd make my mom buy me dinner.
Yeah, my mom's here representing the Davis Finney Foundation, the charity partner for this race, helping people with Parkinson's to learn to live with the disease and giving them information that they need to live well with it, as my father does and has for the last 25 years. So super grateful to this race for including the Davis Finney Foundation in the as the sole charity partner.
Great cause, and we hope to speak with your mom at some point throughout this men's race a little bit later on. And this is really strung out here. Peloton not fully dismissed yet, but this is the part of the race where things can happen quickly in terms of a gap forming and riders getting away, and all of a sudden they start getting chunks of time.
Yeah, as you can see with the riders coasting, they are going downhill here. So when you come into a group or you're part of a group, it's easier to gain speed on that downhill and use that to rip around and bridge across.
And back to the women's podium. Alexandra Bolstad, the best young rider. So Bolstad dons the latest jersey. And as the men roll along here, still very early in their race here, but some very ambitious racing here on this first of 6 laps at the Maryland Cycling Classic.
Parkinson's is more than a tremor. It touches every part of life, affecting movement, mood, cognition, and daily activities. At the Davis Finney Foundation, we help people with Parkinson's by providing proven programs, resources, and ongoing support that improves quality of life. Our community shares experiences, celebrates victories, and faces challenges together. We offer practical tools that make a real difference. Visit dpf.org/Parkinson's. Follow us on social media and discover how to live well today.
for inviting you to explore here, there, and everywhere, for giving your sense of adventure the attention it deserves. You're welcome.
And you're welcome to come see all that Maryland has to offer. This is Governor Wes Moore inviting you to come explore and experience Maryland's byways.
MPT is proud to present our 6th annual HBCU Week. Join us as we celebrate historically Black colleges and universities and the premiere of Becoming Thurgood, America's Social Architect.
It was like he had dropped from heaven.
Whatever was going on, people said, don't worry, Thurgood's coming.
Hear the undertold stories of sacrifice, courage, and hope. It all begins Monday, September 8th, only on MPT.
The work and life of Thurgood Marshall literally changed this country.
Legally speaking, he's one of the founding fathers.
Whatever was going on, people said, don't worry, Thurgood's coming.
Thurgood's coming. Thurgood is coming.
He understood how to use the power of his voice.
He's the only Supreme Court justice who was more famous for what he did before rising to justice.
Now I've got a rider here who needs something.
Looks like he might have broken a chain or something with the derailleur. I mean, there were bottles flying on that descent back down into this Falls Road. I saw one rider going straight off to the left. I'm not sure what happened there. But that section coming back down into here is really I would say, the most technical descending that happens on the course. And yeah, now we're back on the quote-unquote small road. And everybody's fanned out. Looks like they're all looking at each other, playing a little bit of a bluffing game.
Since this is a first-time course here this year at the Maryland Cycling Classic, how would you compare this course to some other one-day races around the world that you have done?
Well, doing circuit races feels uniquely American. It's not totally uniquely American, but we end up racing circuit races in the U.S. And in Europe, doing one-day classics, you typically end up going out, doing some sort of large lap or doing some sort of point-to-point, like a Paris-Roubaix situation. This course, like I said, it's sneaky. If you just looked at it on paper, I was looking at it with my wife Kasha, because she was thinking about coming. She didn't think it was hard enough. But when I came out here and rode the lap, granted I rode the lap on a lime scooter, hour and a half, but I made it all the way around. I thought, man, it's harder than you would expect just on paper. So yeah, it's up there. It's over 100 miles. September, can be hot. The level of the field is high.
As far as the other circuit races, Montreal and Quebec City, which, as we mentioned, are coming up, those are also circuits, and you do have them at the World Championships too. So it's not a totally foreign concept for these riders. They will obviously have done races like this before, but now you have a rip of them with the North American circuits, and then of course the World Championships, which are coming up at the end of the month.
That is a very good point.
But for the first time, they're going to be in Africa, in Rwanda.
Yep. Yeah, Rwanda has an amazing cycling culture. They have the Tour of Rwanda. A good friend of mine, Kiel Reinen, won the Tour of Rwanda way back when, who knows when, 15 years ago. And they have also a premier gravel race there, the Race Across Rwanda, Race Around Rwanda, 1,000 kilometers self-supported. It's a unique place, you know. Actually, plastic bags are illegal. So they pride themselves on having one of the cleanest cities in Africa, and you can tell. And they're just passionate about bikes. They have people from the cycling world that are also passionate.
Well, speaking of African cycling, we had an historic moment in the women's race earlier today with the Benin women's team from Africa coming over to compete here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. The first team from Africa to do so at a race of this level. The Benin team making the long trip. It was a 10,000-mile journey to get here. Benin, a small strip of land that runs north to south in West Africa, bordered by Togo to the west, Nigeria to the east. A French-speaking nation, about 2/3 the size of Portugal. And quite an historic moment for Benin coming here to race in Baltimore for the inaugural Maryland Cycling Classic on the women's side. A nation of 13 million people. And, Taylor, I think you particularly would appreciate this, the birthplace of voodoo.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, that's where it all began. No one does the voodoo like you do, so I figured you would like that.
I wonder if they practice any voodoo today, because a good friend of mine won the race, the ladies' race.
Why not? You look for every competitive advantage you can.
Man, that could be the next marginal gain. I would love.
It could be. Yeah.
I would love to see that.
The watts, nutrition, power meters, and voodoo. That's your list right there.
And they all just have a doll with a UAE jersey that they're poking the whole time.
Non-stop. So 3 riders here, just 10 seconds ahead of this main field. Now they're back in the inner harbor here, and we're coming to the end of this first lap. And they're on this long, straight, flat run into the end of the lap. No intermediate sprint points here, but after this lap, for every remaining lap, there will be.
Yeah, this can be a strong potential breakaway. I mean, you have the smaller teams represented. You got Project Echelon there. You got Skyline. You have Vini Fantini, Medellin. That's really what the main World Tour teams are going to be looking for. If a breakaway is going to happen early in this race, it needs to be the smaller teams with no World Tour. We got a Novo Nordisk there leading them all out. So if there's going to be a breakaway, this is a pretty perfect one for all the World Tour teams to be able to sit back and relax and then fight it out amongst themselves a little bit later.
Now, it could be a group of 5 before too long at the front as the field comes through under that banner that marks the start of lap number 2. And 90 miles as well as 5 laps now left to ride.
Yep, coming back into downtown here.
And it looks like this group is coming together at the very front. So Campo Geraldo, Lozano Riva, Bassett, Baldacchini, and McDumphy.
Victor Ocampo, he's been active from the start. Lozano, he's actually from Barcelona area. He's been racing gravel as well. He was 3rd in the Gravel Earth Series last year. He's a local from the area that I live in Catalunya.
Gravel has really become one of the most popular disciplines in the sport, hasn't it?
Yeah, you know, it's a fun community, and the races, they're challenging, and they're all over the place in a lot of different, very interesting countries and destinations, from Iceland to Kenya to Nebraska, South America. There's just events all over the place, so it's easy for people to kind of create a calendar and do some travel, but push themselves at the same time and be involved in a community event.
So it is a group of 4 riders at the moment here. It's Ocampo Geraldo, Bassett, McDumphy, and Baldacchini. And we'll see how much time they have over the field here on these cobbles that mark the start of every lap. This group of 4 between the leader, Lozano Riva, and the field.
We're back here in Fells point just along the harbor here. The cobbled section, yes, this route is full of ups and downs, but this section right here, I think later in the race, remember 107 miles on tap today, you can see there's riders going down. The pave is what it is. It is hard, it is stricken, and we have one rider from Little Trek who has taken a hard fall. He is down right now. Bottles are flying everywhere. We'll see if he can get back up. That's rider 111 from the Little Trek team, an American team. So they actually have two riders right now that are out of the race, and I think that is Skelmos, who won the race in our last edition, 2023, and he is down. We'll see if he can get back up. He has another teammate who has a mechanical right now, and if they can get back together, perhaps with such a large caravan, they'll be able to get back into this race. But the longer he stays on the pave right here, the harder it will be for him to catch back on. He is up. It looks like he's going to be okay. He's going to wait for the team car, assess the problems, and then try to get back into this race. So our defending champ from 2023 has hit the pavement right here, and he is looking for help anywhere that he can get right now. And I think his team car is just behind, helping another Little Trek rider. We'll keep tabs on this situation right now because he is the defending champion. He spent the last few weeks over in Colorado with his teammate Quinn Simmons. They've had a great preparation for this race, training at altitude, all for it to be over in just one lap. So he's got a teammate who's back in the race after a flat tire. Skelmos right here is going to get a spare bike, and it's going to be a hard chase for him to get back on. We will see in a few minutes if the team sacrificed the other riders to come back and get our defending champ. And the spectators here are giving him a round of applause. Our defending champ of the Maryland Cycling Classic is back on the bike, and we'll keep tabs and see if he can work his way back into the peloton. Sad sight to see right now.
A huge development here at the start of the second lap with almost 90 miles left to go. The defending champion, who also won the very prestigious Amstel Gold Race earlier this season, he goes down hard, and that has really compromised his chances. And what is his team potentially thinking now as well?
Well, that's you never want to see that, you know. Falling on asphalt is one thing. Falling on those cobbles is another. He looked pretty beaten up and even a little bit confused. I couldn't tell if it was just bike shoes walking on cobbles or if maybe he had hit his head. So I hope that they're able to assess him and really make sure that he's okay to jump back in the race. And I hope he's all right. He was walking, standing up, but that's, you never want to see that.
89 riders starting this race. The first one to go down is the defending champion. How about that?
Yeah, you know, cycling, she's a cruel mistress. Just when you think you're on top, she'll take you right back down.
That's what you get for having a mistress, right?
Well, let's not get into that.
No, we won't go that direction. Instead, we'll follow this map and follow the turns that it provides here, where the leader, Lozano Riba, is, and then the rest of the field. We have chasers in between here. And going by Patterson Park, again, one of the biggest urban parks in the country and one of the oldest as well. But still early in lap number 2. This is the part of the circuit where they're kind of slowly trending uphill, going towards the north. And this is a replay of where Skelmos went down on the cobbles, right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that there's just bottles flying all over the place. I mean, you never want that. You never want to hit the ground, but...
All right, so back to Lozano Riba in the green here, number 165. He is the leader. There's 4 chasers behind, and then the field. No time gaps as of now exactly where they all stand. But as you can see, still going uphill here, and it'll be slowly uphill through Monument Park, and then eventually to their second time up the King of the Mountains climb. This is back behind the field, and the chase. The teammate of Skelmos, who is waiting for him here. So Skelmos' teammate Sam Ullman of the Netherlands, and he's waiting for Skelmos, and it's going to be a long road back because he was off his bike and standing around for quite some time after the crash, and that's not to mention how he might be feeling and how beat up he is after falling to begin with.
Yeah, you know, let's say, quote-unquote, luckily for him, if the breakaway is going now, then the pace in the field should, in theory, be a bit lower. So it can be easier to get back in. Well, let's see how that crash rattled his body and his mind. But, you know, these guys are so tough, man. Yeah, there doesn't look like they're letting that breakaway get away at this time.
So this is the front of the race. We have these riders and then just a slight gap to the rest of the field that looks like they're pretty close to reeling them back in.
Yeah, right. So forget what I just said. It's going to be a speedy way back for Skelmoza. It's got Sam Oman waiting for him. Young rider on the team. Actually, maybe the only person in the peloton that doesn't have social media. It's not on Instagram or anything. I got that from his team press officer. So
because you couldn't find it yourself, right? So you had to ask, say, what's going on? Where's the Instagram?
No, I reached out to their press officer and I was trying to get some quirky little infos about each of the riders, and that was that's what she shared with me, that he's offline, which in this day and age is, ooh, look at those clouds. We might have that storm. We got a storm brewing already.
Yeah, partly sunny on this part of the course, but there are some threatening clouds in the distance the other direction.
Yeah, that man, I am surprised that they didn't let that breakaway go, but it goes to show that people here are motivated. They're ready to race. This is a big race for all of the racers here, the World Tour teams and the Continental teams. I can't see exactly who that is, who's closing them, but it almost looks like Mauro Schmidt. It's a red jersey.
Yeah, this thing is just about back fully together here. 85.5 miles left to go. They're on lap number 2 here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. All right, so now the pace has pulled back somewhat with the group in front caught, and now it's a matter of, all right, are we going to see other attacks? Who's going to lead? Exactly how's it going to play out from here? Team's kind of trying to decide, and the riders at the front sort of taking the opportunity to look around and take the temperature of the room.
Yeah, those riders off the front, you know, they'll have burned a couple matches, but that's what they're here to do, try to get out in front of the race early. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of those guys still trying to make their way. This is just an overpass, but I can tell you that it's not flat. It's a good launching point as we see somebody ripping it on the outside. That looks like Team Medellin on the attack again, so they're very motivated to get into the breakaway today.
And for some teams, that might be it. Their sole ambitions to get in a breakaway, to maybe have things fall their way after that. But if you don't have a top sprinter or a favorite in some way that can win later on, get in the break early and take your chances.
Well, yeah, quite often if you can get ahead of the race and you're not one of the strongest teams in the race, you're not the strongest rider in the race, you set yourself up to avoid having to make those selections that happen when the biggest riders go. So it allows you to benefit from being in the front and perhaps end up in the right place at the final.
So one rider off the front of the field. Our big story, though, happening back behind the peloton. The defending champion, Matthias Skelemos, crashing on the cobbles at the start of the second lap, still trying to make his way back up into the field. Meanwhile, a select group of 5 riders that was out front earlier has been caught. And now this is Oscar Sevilla, the Spaniard for Team Medellin, at the front, the 48-year-old who raced, I think, with Jacques Anquetil back in the day. I mean, he has been around forever and now leading a premier race here on U.S. roads in 2025.
That is the legend himself, Oscar Sevilla. If anybody knows a good time to attack, it's him. And I mean, only an old school rider like Oscar can be powering a massive gear like that in the modern day cycling age of high cadence. Our man Sevilla is just grinding his way off the front. Great to see.
Fabian Wies is the rider who has joined him here.
Fabian Wies. Apparently, Fabian loves doing latte art and often prepares coffee for the riders and staff before races.
So latte art in basically preparing the coffee, and you have like a heart in the coffee, something like that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, Steve. It's called a rosetta.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'm not well versed in latte art and in that world.
Well, if there's one thing that goes with professional cycling, it is latte art. And he's not the only one on his team. This is coming directly from their press officer, who prides themselves in latte art.
Now, I do know that coffee is big, because you go on any team bus and usually the coffee machine, the espresso machine, that is the focal point of the bus, right? People gather around. That's the first stop in the morning. Usually when there's a new one delivered, everybody is excited. And so I know it's big. I just didn't realize how big the art aspect was.
Well, you got to take everything to the nth degree. But yes, every team bus has a coffee machine. Nutrition, obviously, being a very important part of the sport. And coffee, natural source of caffeine. I think it's also about the ceremony and the ritual of sitting down with a coffee before the race, before you're about to have 200 grams of gels every hour.
For me, it's coffee before anything. So it doesn't matter whether it's a race. It doesn't matter whether I'm getting set to take a nap. Coffee anytime. Well, that perfectly leads us into this conversation about the way the modern peloton operates in this marginal gains era. Nutrition, the bike, training, how it all works. And climbing watts per kilo is something that you can track over the years, and it's kind of fascinating, the evolution of the sport in this regard.
Yeah, I mean, they keep getting faster, that's for sure. And they're definitely eating a lot more fructose and glucose than ever before. I remember back in my day, it was if I got 40 to 60 grams in, I was stoked an hour. But 200 grams, they're training that in training. I know my wife is doing it. And yeah, you treat the gut like a muscle. You put it under the stress of essentially feeding it as much glucose as possible, and I guess it learns how to pull that in and convert it into the energy that you need to keep you running at a high gear.
Watts over weight, food equaling fuel is kind of the calculation and the formula. I don't know about the breakfast, though. The rice, the pasta, and the noodles. Don't know if I could do it. I respect you guys that you can. Need something a little stronger, maybe some tricks, maybe rice checks, I don't know, Fruit Loops.
Tricks are for kids.
When I was a kid, they were for me. I loaded up.
I can tell you that I'm not eating rice for breakfast anymore. A lot of the teams like Visma, for example, who is not at this race, but they actually have meal plans for their riders. So I was talking actually to Matteo Jorgensen a couple weeks back, and he said he it's easy for him because he doesn't have to think about what he's going to eat. The team essentially, just like a training plan, sends him what he needs to eat, and he weighs it out. They all have scales. I mean, I remember back in the day when Lance busted out a scale, and it was like, oh my goodness, this guy's weighing his food, and now everybody's weighing their food. It's the, let's say, new normal, which is a popular phrase.
Did you ever do anything dramatic or different, maybe unique in terms of your diet or the way you got to a certain weight, or maybe just the way you thought about it back in the day?
Yeah, I am not gonna lie. I'm on the bigger side of these bike riders. I was upwards of 185 pounds, around 82, 83 kilos at the lightest, and I had a lot of difficulty in restricting food from myself because I felt like I rode my bike so that I could eat more food, and it made me hungry, and,
right?
And it made food more enjoyable, and so the idea of going out, punishing myself on a bike, and then just not eating as much as I wanted to, that was really hard for me to commit to. I don't know. Yeah, that's just me.
You have to have the reward. You have to have the carrot dangling at the end of the stick, or maybe the cake at the end of the stick in that regard.
Yeah, at least a carrot and some hummus.
Yes,
at the end of the stick.
a little dip to flavor it up.
But I was never weighing my food.
No. All right, so Sevilla and Weiss here, the two leaders, half a minute ahead of the field on lap 2 here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. All right, so the first real selection that we have had in this race. We saw some aggressive riding on that opening lap. We saw the field single file, but no one really got away with any meaningful time. Now 30 seconds here for these two riders. Is this something that might last a while in your mind?
Yeah, it could. Other than the fact that Oscar Sevilla won the Vuelta in 2001, him and Fabian Weiss, they're not, I wouldn't say that they are being looked at as the top competitors, and there's only 2 of them out there. So if this group was 10 riders and there were more World Tour teams involved, I think that the group behind could start to be worried. But it seems like this possibly, as we see, the group has sat up. So this looks like it's a good breakaway. And can't say enough about Oscar Sevilla. I'd love to see that he's out there still enjoying. That team is coming off of the Gateway Cup actually last week. So they've been racing domestically here in the U.S. And I think they even have a race tomorrow that they're going to, also on the East Coast. So they're doing a little U.S. tour.
Yeah, the Gateway Cup in St. Louis last weekend. It's become a regular staple on the calendar. And again, these races fitting in nicely at the back end of the summer, early fall, to get a swing through the U.S. and Canada before heading back overseas for the end of the season. It's interesting when you have somebody like Sevilla, 48 years of age, and clearly that's beyond the outer rim of what you typically see, but it is truly remarkable in a lot of ways. Oscar Sevilla, 48 years of age, but it's also an illustration of how in sports at the highest level in general, you have athletes playing longer and sticking around at the highest level more so than they ever have before. As we highlighted earlier, nutrition is better, science is better, analytics, they all play a role. So you have a LeBron James playing into his 40s. You have a Lionel Messi who could be at another World Cup at the age of 39 next year. You have different sports, but the theme is the same. Older athletes still sticking around because they can remain competitive with the changes in the way they handle their bodies.
Yeah, great example of that is Mavi Garcia winning a stage of the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift this year, 42 years old. She is the oldest rider in the women's peloton, and we often talk about the racers at the top step of the podium getting younger, with the likes of Pogačar being so dominant from a young age. But you know, it's all in the mind. If you have and in the heart, if you have the love for it and you have the dedication. You know, Oscar Sevilla has said that he's not going to be racing if he's not competitive. And I mean, to be at one of the biggest races on their calendar and the biggest race in the U.S. off the front, you know, goes to show that he's still got it. He won a stage of the Tour of Ecuador this year, and anybody who's raced in South America knows how high that level is down there, and it's not easy. So this man has put in the work, and tip of the hat to him.
To be racing against guys that are half his age, could be his sons, and it's not an easy sport. I mean, this isn't paddle tennis, it's not golf, it's a demanding physical sport, and when you're pushing 50 years of age, to have the body in the kind of condition to be able to handle the rigors, this is definitely impressive.
Yeah, and Fabian Weiss there, he's actually been on the Tudor Pro cycling team since its inception in 2021, so representing that team as we take our right onto the KOM for the second time.
So it will be two different riders to the top of the KOM point than what we saw on the opening lap. So the King of the Mountain competition for the moment pretty wide open. And again, this climb just about a half a mile, tops out at 8%. There's a false flat at the top. This is the furthest north they will get on this course, and then it will turn and head back south and largely downhill to the end of the lap.
Don't quote me on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of the U.S. teams, like Project Echelon or Skyline, tried to send somebody up the road on this climb. You know, there's only two guys in the breakaway. For sure it's been hammered into them that they need to be represented at the front of the race, and I would not be surprised. They're all sitting up there. The group is going to yell at anybody if they go, but hey, this is a race, and that's just what happens.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Hey, on home roads, the representation has to be there. You don't want to miss out. You don't get many chances to race here in the U.S., so you want to take advantage of the opportunity. But by the same token, the rest of the field, they probably feel pretty good about this. They have an established group of two at the front, non-threatening riders, a time gap that's very manageable. So in a lot of ways, it sort of settles down the rest of the race.
Yeah, as we get to about 100 meters left to go on this climb, these riders are putting in a stout effort, and it does seem like the riders behind the World Tour teams, they would be more than happy with this to be the breakaway. It's easy to control. But I can tell you that the rest of the teams here, the directors in their ears, they are not happy. It's always hard to go up against the World Tour teams, and especially when you got some of the biggest pros yelling at you not to attack.
Have you ever had a director in your ear yelling at you to do something and you just can't do it at that moment?
I would say not necessarily yelling. I mean, we like to say that they'd be yelling in the ear, but definitely making some orders that you are either not capable of following with or not willing to comply with. So ultimately, it's the riders that are out on the road, right? And the directors are in the car. They see the feed that we see. It's a much different experience.
So do you have the option if a director says do something, if you don't want to do it? Is that an option that's given to you, or do you kind of just go rogue at that point?
Well, we do have free will, but you might hear about it later. I think quite often it's hard for riders to fully respond to everything that the directors are saying. You know, the riders will be making the ultimate decision on the road, taking into account what the director wants to have happen, what the team plan is. I think it's more important what the team captain on the road has to say. If there's something that the team director is telling you in the ear that you are not complying with, and you have your team captain also telling you to go for it, then you better go for it. But if not, then there's some wiggle room for sure.
Well, a pretty substantial gap now, as we're getting 4 minutes from Sevilla to Wies.
Yeah, they've really slowed down in the back. Now it's time to get all those grams of carbohydrates in, like we had talked about. You'll see a lot of guys eating gels, getting drinks, maybe take a nature break. This is the time. This is the calm before the rest of the storm that we're about to watch unfold here in beautiful Baltimore, Maryland.
So 4 minutes, still very doable for this field if everybody's motivated to chase. But with 2 riders, if you do the math, what is the largest amount of time you would want to give these 2?
I would say maybe I could see them giving them 6 minutes maximum, 6 to 7 minutes, maybe upwards of 8 to 9. These are really crucial moments where the team directors are in the cars behind, and they're driving up next to each other, saying basically, are you going to pull with us? Should we start pulling? You pull, we pull. It's a bit of a tactical chess game in the back, and the riders up in this group that we see from this drone shot are essentially waiting to receive those orders, whether it's time to start riding. You would think that a team like Lidl Trek would be taking up that, but with the crash of Skelmos, which I don't know if he's made it back to the peloton or not yet, that changes things up a bit. So it's hard to know who that responsibility would fall upon, but it always ends up being a situation where the group looks to the World Tour teams to start putting one rider on the front to ride. So look for EF, look for Uno X. Jayco Alula obviously have one of the strongest sprinters here, but what a fantastic shot from the drone. You definitely not going to get that close with a helicopter. So beautiful day here in Baltimore.
So the field not in chase mode as of yet here on the climb on the northern part of the course. 2 leaders, 4 minutes. Sevilla and Wies. And again, this is the second lap. Still a long way to go, almost 76 miles to the finish. A little sticky bottle there at the car, hanging on while the exchange is made from the driver to the rider.
2 very different energies between the 2 riders up front and the vibe here in the group. These are the moments where you can catch up with old friends that maybe you missed in the hotel and really breathe, have some food, and kind of reset and start to think about the rest of this race. As we do not have an enormous group off the front, it means that this will be a bit more controlled, and we'll look towards the last couple laps for that activity to come from our main hitters in the pack.
And it's funny, all the conversations that take place between riders on different teams in the peloton when the race isn't fully engaged. Sometimes just joking around, and even though you're literally in the middle of a competition, you're just having a chat about so many different things. I heard at one point in a European race, there was a rider who actually sold his car to another rider during the race itself.
I could tell you with a lot of certainty there's been many sales made. This is you're looking at basically like a networking conference.
Really?
No.
Kind of like a Facebook marketplace that happens during a sporting event. I get it.
Yeah, it's cars, watches. This is maybe more of an old school thing, but for sure there's some networking going on, some trades being made. I always enjoyed this period to be able to catch up with people, and it's a rare thing in a sporting event.
The paperwork just gets exchanged later. Well, it's over 2.5 miles from these two leaders back to the field with 75 left to go. So look at that. The top of the screen is where the field is, and down towards the bottom is where the two leaders are, and they are heading back down south towards central Baltimore, largely downhill back to the end of the second lap at the Inner Harbor. That's a pretty big gap between those 2 points in the race.
Yeah, you can make quite a lot of difference when you're pushing on the pedals, especially when it's downhill from the top of that KOM. And if the peloton took the KOM slow and the breakaway took the KOM at a regular speed, let's say, and then pushed all the way down, I mean, 3 miles gap in between the two groups, that's 5 kilometers. That's a stout amount of time. This breakaway, the time is gonna go up quick, and but that's part of this cat and mouse game of cycling that we are watching. There's Soupe the beard that I was telling you about with Total Energies right on the front there. The commanding beard.
You got to fear the beard in the peloton on a day like today. He's at the front. Got a couple of teammates with him, but no team really pulling right now.
No, Tudor represented up in the front, but they're definitely not going to be pulling with their barista, Fabian Weiss, up in the front, the king of latte art on the Tudor Pro Cycling team. Apparently, never missing in Fabian's luggage is a book. An avid reader, as we have Uno X, deciding to mix things up. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the race started to open up a little bit, because I can't see anybody taking full control and bringing back a 5-kilometer gap. That's mentally, it just becomes more and more difficult to process, to think about. So these teams like Uno X that are here to animate, even EF, as we see, that are going off the front, J. Lula, the American teams, Novo Nordisk. Yeah, let's see. The sales pause is over.
Yeah, these one-day circuit races so different from a stage race or anything else, where there's no tomorrow, there's no next day or general classification you have to think of long term. There's no placing you're trying to protect from the day before. It's all just focused on the results of today, and all of the dynamics get compressed into one 4-hour competition. And the gap over 5 minutes here.
Yeah. One-day racing, you just put it all out there. A lot of the times you'll have about half the field that ends up finishing the race, or even less, because once you're out of the race, unlike a stage race, you don't have to try to make it to the finish line in order to be able to start the next day. So hopefully that police car gets out the way, and these guys are ripping. 5 minutes can come down quickly towards the end of the race, but
well, our two leaders are coming up on the end of the lap, but just a few moments ago, check this out. Matthias Skelmos, the defending champion of this race from the last edition 2 years ago, crashing at the start of the second lap on the cobbles. He tried to continue, but now has had to abandon, basically just hanging his right arm off to the side. Really can't put any pressure on that right arm or the right hand, so he eventually stopped and he has abandoned the race.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, you can tell when somebody goes down. If they're up immediately, then they're ready to get back into it, but he was almost like the Walking Dead when he stood back up. I couldn't tell if it was the bike shoes or the cobbles, but I think that's a good move from him that he was able to call it. I hope he's all right, and I hope he's going to be all right for the races in Canada, and be able to go 1-2 punching with Quinn Simmons. Will be interesting to see Quinn on his own today with Lidl Trek. Obviously not on his own within the team, but their game plan was to be that 1-2 punch. So we all know from the Tour de France this year that Quinn is perfectly capable of being aggressive on his own, and I think we'll look to see that as this race comes into the last half.
All right, this is the long, flat finishing stretch at the end of lap number 2 for the 2 leaders, Avis and Sevilla. Over 2 miles between them and the field. There is a rider here in the gap between the leaders and the peloton.
Project Echelon.
And that is Eric Brunner of the U.S. But over 5 minutes from the front to the back here. And he's not too far ahead of the main field here. May get scooped up before too long as the 2 leaders go under the banner and proceed out onto lap number 3. All right, so 2 leaders ahead by over 5 minutes. 2 laps down, 4 remaining here at the Maryland Cycling Classic. The gap steadily increasing to these 2, Avis and Sevilla. Short stretch of cobbles coming up, and on the last lap, remember, this is where Skelmos crashed. A crash that has now taken him out of the race.
You can see the patchwork that they've done on this particular roundabout. It was a little bit too dangerous for the riders with some parallel openings in the cobbles. So they were able to patch that roundabout up, but they're about to hit the main cobblestone section of the course as they come back down through the start area after having gone through the finish.
Little time has been sliced off the margin down inside of 5 minutes.
The iconic voice of Dave Toll you can hear in the background. Dave Toll announcing races who knows how long. Perhaps before I was even born. Probably not that long, but I remember him announcing races when I was 16, so 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Local races in Colorado. He's a staple on the circuit, as are you, Steve Schlenk.
Oh, stop now, Taylor. Stop that. The riders onto the cobbles now here. This is where Skelmos went down. About 500 meters to navigate. Much easier when it's just 2 riders here, like we have with our leaders. Crowds building throughout this race and the afternoon. Last couple of times at this Maryland Cycling Classic, we've had around 20,000 at the finish. Good crowds at the Inner Harbor right now, and even more out on the climb at the KOM. And still a few hours of racing remaining. We've got 70 miles left to go. Meanwhile, as they are out onto their third lap, this is the main field coming back into the center of Baltimore and still on their way towards the end of lap 2.
Yeah, it looks like the peloton is not happy with just sitting back and having their little carb break. So some of the continental teams ramping it up. We've seen Education First, Lidl Trek getting after it. It's hard to tell, but that looks like another Project Echelon rider coming off the front. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another breakaway sort of situation here that's going to try to make their way up to Sevilla and Vice up in the front. But they got a long way to catch those guys.
Also getting word that it is raining out on certain parts of the course. And with the pace here in the field, you see how it's kind of stretched out. The gap has come down to inside 4.5 minutes. It was over 5 a short time ago.
You can see the riders precariously darting from these pieces of concrete on the road. You can see that there's a line that is formed in between those two pieces of concrete that can be treacherous if you get your wheel stuck in there. You have roads like that in Belgium as well. Coming back down into Fells Point, we can hear the buzz of the riders coming by the commentary booth. Whoosh of wind.
A little bit of a breeze out there on the course, not a whole lot, but the clouds are building, that is for sure. Largely sunny skies earlier in the day, but as we noted before, rain is in the forecast, and it could be quite heavy with thunderstorms this afternoon. They are predicted to roll in anytime between 2 and 8 p.m., and we are just shy of the 2 o'clock hour right now here in Baltimore.
Yeah, we're getting reports that there's some rain on the course. When I'm looking at the radar, it looks like it might hold off for these riders, which I'm sure they would prefer. As far as a spectacle is concerned, I never disliked some rain.
What's the worst weather you've ever raced in?
The worst weather I ever raced in was probably Milan-San Remo in maybe 2012, where they didn't cancel the stage, but they neutralized the stage in the middle before we went over the Turquino Pass because it was snowing and it had been raining all morning. So we started, and I think it was just above freezing. You start pretty early in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. Start out, we rode 3 hours, progressively getting to higher altitudes, and the temperature didn't rise much over freezing until it just started snowing, and we were riding single file. You can imagine the tire tracks on the snow, following one single tire track to get to the bus. We heard that the stage had been neutralized. We got into the bus. I had about a centimeter of ice that had formed onto my helmet. But we got to the bus. We were able to take a shower and reset for round 2, and got out towards the coast where the weather was marginally improved. It was still cold. It was still raining, but it wasn't snowing. And we were able to head to the finish. I actually got 8th that year as we watch Quinn Simmons flying the flag, getting after it as he did so well in France. It was really cool to watch that.
And he's helping to push the pace at the front of the field here. 4.5 back of the 2 leaders.
Yeah, you're starting to see EF getting involved. Lidl Trek up there Uno X. I mean, these are the teams that we need to be mindful of. That's Guillaume Boivin from the Israel Premier Tech. We're back with the steady cadence of Oscar Sevilla and Fabian Weiss. You can tell that Weiss comes from a younger generation of higher cadence. Even different position. Sevilla still much further back in terms of seat setback, whereas you can see that Fabian Weiss is positioned much further forward. This is a trend that has become more popular in the last couple of years.
Why is that?
It's a good question. I think it's something about the use of the hamstrings. If you can deal with taking the weight of your body more on your arms, you free up some weight, let's say, on the lower body. It becomes more like a time trial position when you're further forward, further over the bottom bracket. I mean, if you look at running and you talk about running form, you really want to be having your momentum and your weight further forward. If you look at the Kenyans, for example, in marathon running, the top marathon runners, they're further forward over that stroke point where they hit the ground. So, I mean, we've seen a lot of what happens in cycling is trend based. So the best riders in the world end up dictating what other riders end up wanting to do. So if we look at the best example of that, it's Tadej Pogačar. His position is especially further forward when we're talking about the saddle over the bottom bracket. And he also rides shorter cranks, 165 millimeter cranks. So you're seeing a lot more riders using shorter cranks instead of, let's say, 175.
Right.
And being further forward, and I think it allows you to get a bit more aerodynamic, but it is more taxing on the neck and the shoulders and the arms. But just like the nutrition, something that you can train, that the riders do train, and the body adapts. That's the wild thing about sport, and especially cycling. You know, you get to the end of a grand tour and your body, all it wants to do is ride a bike. By the time you're done with the race, 3 weeks of racing at the Tour de France, your body doesn't know what to do other than ride a bike. So constantly moving forward, constantly evolving in this sport, whether it's technology or just simple positioning on the bike.
And now the riders coming through the feed zone. And this is where you got to be careful with throwing bottles that ricochet back into the peloton. We've seen that a few times where you get a bottle that flies back in, a guy runs over it, and sometimes in races people will actually crash because of that. And other riders taking the opportunity here to get to the front while others take on the food and the water.
Yeah, it looks like the feed zone is on that hill section that is climbing next to the park, and that is not an easy section. So you start climbing up there, and then by the time you get to the top, you got to reach out and grab a bottle or a feed bag. If there's any spectators that are looking for some personal mementos, I would go find that feed zone. What is that park called again?
Patterson Park?
Patterson Park. You're going to find some bottles. You're going to find some feed bags. Could make a nice little memento. Pro tip.
All right, so we have Weiss and Sevilla here, and the gap has come down. It's now 3.5 minutes. It was up over 5 at one point, but you see how the pace has picked up back in the field, and riders very aggressively at the front. So as a result, it's cutting into the lead of our two riders at the front here. Lap 3 of 6 at the Maryland Cycling Classic. The Maryland Cycling Classic is presented by Kelly Benefits, proud sponsor of the Start and King and Queen of the Mountains jersey competition. Athlos, proud partner and the official merchandise and apparel supplier with offices here in Baltimore. And by H&S Bakery. We are America's largest family-owned and operated variety baker and distributor for 4 generations and counting.
Parkinson's is more than a tremor. It touches every part of life, affecting movement, mood, cognition, and daily activities. At the Davis-Finney Foundation, we help people with Parkinson's by providing proven programs, resources, and ongoing support that improves quality of life. Our community shares experiences, celebrates victories, and faces challenges together. We offer practical tools that make a real difference. Visit dpf.org/Parkinson's. Follow us on social media and discover how to live well today.
In Baltimore, we play. In this city, we lead with heart. We back it up with passion and plenty of hustle. We rep purple and black and orange and every color of the rainbow. Here, we play our way, which means everyone is free to jump in. Because game time is just a state of mind. And you got next. But you won't get it till you get here.
The 988 helpline provides immediate emotional support to people across Central Maryland. The helpline is free, confidential, and calls and texts are answered 24/7. Learn more at 988helpline.org.
We've been racing into your living room since 1981. Now it's time for Motor Week's 45th anniversary season. Slide behind the wheel of the here and now with our expert car buying and car care advice. Plus a fun look in the rear view mirror. Fuel your passion for the automotive world every week. Join me, John Davis, for Motor Week 45.
Today at 5:30 on MPT.
SIAB hosts the Galbani, Maryland Italian Festival, presented by Jarrettsville Furniture, September 26th through 28th at Ripken Stadium in Aberdeen. Enjoy authentic food and drink, music, carnival rides, and more. Tickets at MarylandItalianFestival.com.
Seems like the gap is holding steady here.
You know, I'm just receiving a piece of information that I wasn't aware of. I was looking for the Toronto Hustle jerseys, the checkerboard jerseys of the Toronto Hustle. They were told actually this morning, 7:30 this morning by the UCI, that they didn't meet some sort of administrative requirement for the participation series events. They were not able to, even though they came here and were ready to race this. Big blow for the Toronto Hustle.
No doubt. Well, a look at where the lead was, where the field is between them. Still heading north towards the KOM point. The field coming past the Washington Monument.
Yeah, well, Washington, D.C. is known for its Washington Monument. This is actually the first Washington Monument that has been erected in the U.S. So the oldest Washington Monument right here in Baltimore, Maryland. And these racers just race and ride by it. Most of them probably have no idea.
No, you always think of the Washington Monument. You think of D.C., of course, but Baltimore has the first, over 200 years old, and Baltimore at one point the capital of the United States for a short time.
Yeah, and there was the monument just there in the background. We could see it. If we pan out a bit, we'll be able to see it again. There it is. Very cool.
Charm City, as it is known.
Charm City, baby. I wasn't aware that Fort McHenry here in Baltimore was the birthplace of the American national anthem.
Yes.
Written obviously by Francis Scott Key in the War of 1812.
Yeah. He rode it. Obviously, the bridge was named after him, the bridge that collapsed last year, forcing the cancellation of last year's race. But back bigger and better than ever this year. Did you also know that not only the first dental college was in Baltimore, but also the first post office? Taylor Finney.
Actually, I did know that, but only this morning when I found out.
They didn't have same-day delivery, but the first post office located right here in Baltimore.
Inaugurated in 1774. They also had the first telegraph line in the world that was established between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. That was a little bit later in 1844.
So many historical milestones, anecdotes. We could talk for hours, but let's spare you our discourse, at least for the moment, and go down out on the course to Rasan Bahati. Hey, Rasan.
All right, I'm here in Fells Point. I'm just having a good time watching the Maryland Cycling Classic, and this distinguished young man walked up and said, "This is great." Tell us what's so great about it.
Oh, man, we're down here. We're on the cobblestones of Fells Point, and we got Baltimore cycling. It's amazing. I mean, you can't, it's as pure as it is, man. Good weather, good times.
Wait a second. Are you a local?
Baltimore, yes. I mean, yeah, Baltimore County.
And what do you think about all of this that's going on right here in your city?
Amazing. Love it. I love it. We're about the cycling scene, and we love this.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Make sure you tell your friends to get down to the finish, and we're going to have some fun later on.
Down to the finish. Let's go, man.
Now he's repping the Baltimore Crab. He's got the brew. Had the Gatorade bottle in the backpack. I mean, he was well prepared when he came out for the race today. That's another thing. Beer making is actually a big part of the history of Baltimore, too. You go back to the 1800s, even into the early 1900s, there were over 100 breweries in and around the Baltimore area.
Yeah, I'm starting to... Whoa. There we go, Cookie Monster. This is Baltimore's equivalent of the...
Does the Cookie Monster not have, like, a bottom portion of the costume? I mean, just the top?
I've never seen the Cookie Monster running. So
he's always stationary, right?
It was a sacrifice that spectator had to make. Bottomless Cookie Monster.
Yeah. At least he doesn't live in a trash can like his buddy Oscar. This Oscar, however, never been in a trash can. I mean, he has been a pro longer than anybody else in the peloton and riding pristine racing so far here today.
He's got the passion, that's for sure. Oscar Sevilla.
This is a rider now who's come out of the peloton.
Project Echelon. Great kit, by the way. I'm loving the kit design. Seems to have a bit of a Maryland flag-inspired design. Could just be me.
Ethan Crane, the American here.
Ethan Crane is actually from New Zealand. He's the only New Zealand rider on Project Echelon. Most of the rest of the team is American. I think he's actually been on the team for 4 years or so. He's one of the more senior riders, although he's only 22 years of age. This team is very cool, Project Echelon. They use professional cycling as a platform to remove barriers to endurance sports and the positive communities that surround them. Their riders work to coach, mentor, and motivate over 600 veterans that they serve each year. Love a team with a bit of a side hustle that is doing good for the people of this country.
Well, the sport of cycling very much on the front burner on the American sports landscape here today in Baltimore. And how about this for one of the most prominent American cyclists of all time, Greg LeMond, three-time Tour de France winner, road world champion, and receiving just recently the Congressional Gold Medal. This was back in the month of July. It's the highest civilian honor awarded to an American. It's dedicated to individuals, institutions, or groups who've made some kind of distinguished achievements or contributions that have profoundly impacted American history and culture. Just the 10th U.S. athlete awarded, the first ever cyclist, joining a list that includes Jackie Robinson, Joe Louis, Arnold Palmer, Billie Jean King, and others. But the only cyclist and 10th athlete of all time, Greg LeMond. So a huge congratulations to Greg for his Congressional Gold Medal. What a moment and what an honor back in July. Happening not too far from here, down south in Washington, D.C.
Huge accomplishment. I believe he was actually slated to receive this medal back in 2020, but it was put on hold due to COVID. So really happy that he's able to revel in that accomplishment. Yet another gold for Greg LeMond.
His results, though, didn't change between 2020 and this year. They stay the same, still as worthy as ever.
Yeah, we actually just recently rewatched the final time trial of the 1989 Tour de France, where he narrowly beat Bernard Hinault on the Champs-Élysées using aero bars for the very first time in professional cycling.
And now our two leaders at the signature climb on the course.
Fabian is definitely taking the turns a bit faster than the old dog Sevilla.
Back to Ethan Crane again. He is a rider between the two leaders in the field, but much closer to the field than he is to the leading group. 26-year-old.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody has jumped out there with him. Curious to know what's happening back in the pack. Last time we saw them, Quinn Simmons was up in the front. You had EF, Uno X trying to make things move. That just shows you that there's not going to be much organization when it comes to bringing this breakaway back. They have taken a significant chunk of time out from that breakaway gap with those attacks, so showing that they might be far away, but not too far out of arm's reach.
Some very enthusiastic fans along the road here with 60 miles left to go. ...200 meters to the top of the climb. Weiss and Sevilla here. Weiss in the red helmet, Sevilla in the white.
Do we have points on offer for this round?
Yeah. Every time up the climb, 5, 4, and or I should say 4, 2, and 1 for the first 3 to the top of the climb. So 4 for the first rider, which will be Weiss. 2 points to Sevilla for going through second. And if Ethan Crane holds his position, he would be the third member of the field across. That would be 1 point. And don't forget intermediate sprint points at the end of every lap. And the points there are the same, 4, 2, and 1 for the first 3.
Looks like the peloton has decided to sit up a little bit again. Just looking, the last race that Ethan Crane did were the Gravel Worlds, the Lauf Gravel Worlds. So he's perfectly comfortable with a long day of steady rhythm. He'll be able to crank out some solid watts for quite a long period of time. So him being solo in between these two groups, not foreign territory for him.
Well, the margin has come down between the field and the two leaders, now inside of 2 miles. Was up around 3 at one point. Still 60 miles remaining in the race, so a lot of time and no real heavy pursuit at the moment.
Israel Premier Tech leading the riders onto the climb. EF, Medellin, Uno X, Jayco, all visible here at the front. It's like Brandon McNulty moving up on the right side. Signature style. Signature McNulty sway.
So we saw our two leaders go over the top of the climb earlier, but this is the beginning of the climb for the field. And now back to Weiss and Sevilla. And they are starting downhill and going north to south on the second half of the circuit, back towards the end of lap number 3 now. At this point in their minds, are they thinking that maybe we got a shot, or do they think they're doomed?
You know, when you're out there, 2 guys in front of a peloton of what would be 86 other men, you're not thinking about the victory at this point in time. Still over halfway to go. You're just trying to get into a nice rhythm, find a good balance of work between one another, and just push on and kind of hope that they sit around and bluff too long in the back. I haven't seen the moto with the whiteboard come by to give them any sort of time gap. I'm sure they're aware, but I think that they'll be hoping that they can get as much time as possible. And essentially this is just a 2-up time trial, which can be quite fun, can be quite peaceful. It's a long day, but when you're with a legend like Sevilla.
And the field just going over the top of the climb at the KOM point. And they are 3.5 minutes back at this point.
Okay,
so the gap not really coming down right now.
Well, it was up to 5 minutes on the last lap.
And it's been steady now for about a lap or so, I believe. It was up over 5, then came down pretty quickly, and has sort of like plateaued at about 3.5 minutes now.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see where Ethan Crane is in the middle there. It doesn't look like these two are putting in a monster effort. You know, their body language is pretty composed, which it would need to be. Got a long ways to go.
Now, so far, the weather has been very good as they roll through what is known as Roland Park near Johns Hopkins University.
Beautiful.
That's off to the east of where we are right now. Johns Hopkins, one of the world-renowned medical centers and schools of medicine. One of the famous institutions of Baltimore. And that's Ethan Crane you're looking down on right now. He's in the gap between the two leaders and the main field. Beautiful tree-lined streets, some majestic homes here in this neighborhood. And I mentioned it's a city of so many different neighborhoods, such variety in culture, style, cosmetics here in this town on the eastern seaboard. All right. Well, there's a stabilization of some in the race at the moment with 2 leaders, a chaser and then the field. Let's get some flavor of what's happening on the streets in Baltimore and send you down to Rasan Bahati.
We just cannot get enough of Fells Point because I'm still here. We saw the crash a couple laps ago. We saw the fireworks. And now we have some locals, Elena. And I got a little game I want to play, all right? Okay. How many miles are the men racing?
Well, he just told me 107. 107?
107. All right, let's push it a little more. How many kilometers is that?
I want to say maybe 140 kilometers.
I'm going to say you're wrong. Come on. All right, you're the expert now. 180? Close. Oh, come on. All right, wait. I said the expert was out, but we're actually going to come to him because I want to ask you a very serious question. This is great, right? I've been around American cycling now for 25 years, and this is your hometown. This is now the 3rd year. Like, what's going on through your mind being a cycling enthusiast?
It's amazing to see these international pros and see them riding the streets of Baltimore, to see the big names that I only watch on TV throughout the year because I follow a lot of races. It's just amazing. I'm glad it's an event that's happened multiple years, and I hope to see it happen a lot.
Absolutely. All right, you guys are not off the hook. I'm coming over here. I'm coming over. You know anything? Okay, I got one for you.
I know nothing. I just got here.
Perfect. You know, sometimes it's hard coming in late to a movie. You miss all the action. But since you just got here, I want to know, what is the name of this event?
Maryland Classic.
And
cycling.
Yes. See? All right. So you're right. You're not fooling me. So I got another one for you. How many different nations are represented in the men's race?
I'm going to go 50.
50. 15 is correct. You got good help here. All right, so I'm going to bounce back to you because I think it's important for the people of Baltimore to know how important this is, not only to the state of Maryland, but the city, Charm City. How important is this to bring such an international feel, to Charm City?
I think this is a great event. It shows off the city. It shows off a lot of areas of the city. I love the course. It goes through the cobbles in Fells Point, does the climb on Northern Parkway. That's like the best course ever.
And if you could talk to the powers that be, and I'm going to ask you this, if you could talk to the powers that be, what would you tell them about bringing this thing back year after year?
It's necessary. It's necessary to bring all these. There's people I've met today of people from all over the world. So they need to come here and see how beautiful Baltimore is.
I could not agree more. I'm from Southern California, and I've enjoyed my week here to the point where, I may dip my toe in some real estate. Back to you guys.
Huge day for the fans to come out. A full day of activities with the women's race earlier. Fan zones throughout Baltimore, and now 4 hours of men's racing. We're coming up on the halfway point of this race, which will be at the end of lap 3. Fabian Weiss and Oscar Sevilla, still the 2 leaders who are pacing the race at the moment. We have Ethan Crane, one rider, in between these 2 and the peloton. But this has been the signature move of the day so far. They had a lead of over 5 minutes at one point, and at the most recent check, it's down to 3.5 minutes. Sevilla, the rider, at the very front here, and Weiss sitting just behind him on this downhill section that takes them south back into the center of Baltimore and to the end of the lap, which will be at the Inner Harbor. Now Weiss rolling through to take the pull. Well, the good news for Oscar Sevilla is when you're trying to get your partner here, Weiss, to come through to do the pulling, typically when you have a 2-man breakaway, you try and share the workload as much as possible. I mean, you don't want to pull for any longer than you have to. You don't want to use more energy than you need to. You'd like the other guy to do most of the work, but it's a gentleman's agreement, right? You try to share it 50-50 as much as possible. But in Oscar Sevilla's case, you have the perfect excuse. You could say, hey man, I'm 48. I'm almost 50 years old. I'm over twice as old as you. You're the young buck. You go to the front. That's hard to beat.
Yep. I will say what I know about guys riding bikes in their late 40s is they love to pull. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was more than happy to just get out there. I'm wondering about his mismatched tire situation. If maybe he got a flat earlier in the stage and he had to swap out a wheel. Regardless, he's found himself in front of the race while we have another group forming behind from that's Mauro Schmidt right there, the Swiss champion. We've got Uno X. I mean, that's what these guys have to do from the back. Doesn't look like they're going to make it back up to the front in a traditional way, in the sense that a team is just going to get on the front and line it back.
So Taylor, do you think at this point it's a mistake that no team has taken charge in trying to pull it back?
I don't think it's a mistake necessarily. It's just the way that the cookie's going to crumble here at this race. There's no mega sprinter here with a sprinting team that's going to say we want this race to be a sprint. We want to keep this controlled. Most of these teams, the big teams in particular, they have sent a very dynamic team to this race. I think because they're heading towards the races in Canada, those are not sprinting one-day classics, and so yeah, you have groups of guys in each team that are wanting to animate this race and not wanting to sit on the front and pull a brake back, even if this brake is not terribly dangerous. You can see that in the back, you can never let two guys, especially Fabian Weiss, who was fourth in the time trial at the Swiss National Championships, and Oscar Sevilla, who has more results than probably everybody in the race combined on his Paul Mars. You can't let these guys get too far. But
Weiss and Sevilla halfway through the race. 3 laps down, 3 to go. 2 leaders at the front with just north of 50 miles remaining at the Maryland Cycling Classic. So behind the 2 leaders, there was another small group trying to form at the front of the field, trying to get a gap, trying to ride a little more ambitiously to cut into this lead. 2 miles back. And still a long way to go, but the longer it does go and the larger the gap stays, the dicier the strategies will get.
Yeah, here we are at the halfway point of this race. 3 laps down, 3 laps to go. This is when the top competitors are going to start thinking about the finish, the amount of opportunities for them to launch off of the front of this race. They're going to get progressively less and less as this race goes on. And there are a couple launch points on this course, but as you can see, time is flying. And we're halfway done here.
When they went through that finish area and underneath the banner, there were points for the sprint jersey. Obviously, they were not sprinting, but 4 points for first, 2 for second, 1 for third. And the sprint jersey isn't one that has been hotly contested here today. It's been more just a byproduct of the way the racing has unfolded.
Yeah, it's interesting that they haven't been contesting the sprints or the KOM in a traditional way. As you can see, Weiss is riding these cobbles as if he was on the Paris-Roubaix cobbles.
Leaders on the cobbles. And now the field. are coming through the end of the lap. This is the midpoint for them in the race. The gap in 2.5 minutes, so it has come down significantly. This should be pretty comfortable. 2.5 minutes with over 50 miles left to go. There's also the consideration, too, that you don't necessarily, in some cases, want to bring a breakaway back too soon, because then that encourages counterattacks. So there's always that fine line between how much time you give a break, how quickly do you bring them back, because there's always the unknown about mistakes that are made in calculations for the strategy of when to bring them back, how to bring them back, and who's going to bring them back.
Yeah, you can see that even though there wasn't one team necessarily pulling those two riders back, the gap has fallen quickly, which will tell those riders in the main group that they're not so out of reach up in the front. But we've been seeing counterattacks throughout this last lap. So it definitely shows that there's not much cooperation in the group, but the riders are ready to race, that's for sure.
Even though this is a different course this year than we have had in the first two editions, the finish is the same that they've used every single year, and we've had different types of finishes going back to the inaugural edition in 2022. Sepp Van Mark won in a 4-up sprint. The following year, Matthias Skelmos won solo after getting away late. Skelmos, meantime, has crashed out of this year's race. He went down early on the cobbles in lap 2 and then later abandoned. So what kind of finish will we get here in this third edition?
Yeah, we're hoping that Matthias Skelmose is okay, as we see a couple pedestrians running across the road, barely making it over in time. This is the exact point where Skelmose crashed. Still not sure exactly what happened there, but it seems that the riders are taking, you can see that the cobblestones on the right side, it looks as if it's a bit lighter in color. You can tell that there's maybe a smoother line through these cobbles, which they're going to find after that, just that first lap.
Through the Fells Point neighborhood. One of the priorities of changing the course, and one of the reasons that they altered it from the first couple of editions, is because of the fact that Baltimore is such an historic city with so many different neighborhoods and so cosmetically appealing in different sections of the city. They wanted to bring the entire course back within the city limits of Baltimore, whereas the previous courses were out in the countryside north in Baltimore County. And we see evidence of the different cities, the neighborhoods that they roll through here today. Very different architectural styles, going through Patterson Park, going through some of the majestic historic homes, some of the newer homes. And now our leaders going through the feed zone here and getting an opportunity for an afternoon bite.
An afternoon slurp of a gel.
What was always the favorite thing for you to eat on the bike? I know some things you got to just force down like a gel, which aren't necessarily appetizing, but what was sort of your guilty pleasure when it came to eating on the bike?
Well, I think you can talk about guilty pleasures when you're training. When you're racing, you're always, imagine that you run up a set of stairs and then you have to keep running up another set of stairs but eat something at the same time. It's never really a pleasurable experience. And you're eating so much sugar and so many carbs that it's more a test of your your ability to intake than it is a pleasurable consuming experience.
Sounds like a challenge. Now I'm going to try and eat a pizza while running upstairs.
Yeah,
I'm going to put that on my calendar. Well, look at some of the ominous clouds out west of Fells Point and Baltimore here. Could be some interesting weather on the horizon soon. Weather is forecast to move in anytime now through the rest of the afternoon, and thunderstorms, gusty winds, even hail and lightning could be in the mix. So far, so good. A few raindrops out there earlier, but still dry at the moment. How much longer that will last, we don't know, but it does not look great.
Beautiful view of the harbor. I've been pretty blown away with this city. Just being here the last couple of days, I really enjoy it. I love the history, and it's absolutely beautiful.
The culture, the history, and just the renovation too of so many different aspects of it, especially down in the inner harbor, the Harbor Point area, Harbor East. It is magnificent. Vice in Sevilla, getting an unencumbered look at it without any riders around them to distract them from the views as they head out here on their fourth lap, and their margin down close to the 2-minute mark now. Hasn't been that low for a while.
Yeah, going back to talking a little bit about the nutrition, I would say if we're really talking about a guilty pleasure, the best combo on a training ride still to this day is a Snickers and a Coca-Cola. That was always Chris Horner's go-to. I remember him giving some interview where he had like 20 Snickers and Coca-Cola in a ride.
And he would always go to McDonald's too. I mean, he was a huge proponent of Mickey D's.
Yes, he's Americana.
Yeah,
red-blooded
through.
Americana. Mickey Diesel. But yeah, they don't really have time to chew these days.
2 leaders sticking to the nutrition plan here today, and they've been keeping things buttoned up with the bottles and the gels. No McDonald's drive-through to spin through along the course here.
Could be a nice addition, just a little McFlurry.
It hit the spot, right, on a hot day like this?
McFlurry hand up. My wife Kasha, she ends up with eating a lot of Magnum, those candy the ice cream candy bars on a stick. That's a bit of her guilty pleasure.
Go-to, yeah. So the peloton just came through the feed zone. Leaders are in the center of the screen in the yellow and through the center of the city, and a gap just over 2 minutes between these two contingents. But at this point, there are plenty of opportunities to bring them back. Now, there are a few riders who have gone clear of the field that are between them, but still trying to gather information on exactly who it is, where they are. But everybody within 2 minutes, we know that at this point. So Vice in Sevilla, and this is just part of that steady, sort of moderately uphill section when you're riding out north of Baltimore up to the KOM, which we'll see again later, before you turn back and head south and downhill to the end of the lap.
Looks like this is a group.
Now the peloton now is kind of really spread out. Single file in a lot of areas, no one organized field.
That would indicate that the pace is quite high, that there's some attacks. Coming up over this overpass, I can tell you it is uphill. Here we go.
So this is the chase of the 2 leaders. So this is a group that's in front of the main field, but behind the 2 leaders. A rather lengthy number of riders in this group.
There we go. We got Mauro Schmidt in there. He's a hitter, one to watch. We got Abramson in there as well. Jonas, he's got the nose for smelling victory. Big EF representation. Looks like Nielsen Paulus is in there. Alex Baudin, French rider, fresh signing for them. This is a really good group right here. Missing Lidl Trek. They're not going to be happy about that.
And now up to the Washington Monument here for the two leaders. And St. Mary's Seminary on the way as well. That'll be coming up.
This church on the right is actually beautiful. Saw that riding through right next to the Washington Monument. That looks like the Sprinter Marine for EF education.
It'll be interesting if a group like this, because there's so many strong riders and because there's a volume, there's a quantity that are in this collection, if they can perhaps distance the field.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. We got some Trek representation. We got Brandon McNulty up there, Marijn Vandenberg, Nielsen Paulus, Mauro Schmidt, another Medellin rider who's going to be able to just sit at the back. We got Oded Kogut from Israel.
And there you have it right there. Some prominent names. And if you're back in the field, and so many different teams and big riders have made this move, who's going to pull? It kind of discourages a lot of motivated pulling at the front of what's left of the peloton.
Yeah, it's also pretty uneven between having 3 EF riders in there, and Lidl Trek just has one, but not their main hitter, let's say.
So now we're getting 1 minute from the chase group to the two leaders. This is the chase group here.
This is a great group. I mean, who we're missing from this group is Quinn Simmons. He's going to be fuming back in the peloton, that's for sure. But you got Brandon McNulty. You have 3 from Education First. Abramson, huge favorite coming in. He's on a streak right now, winning 3 races in the last couple months. Doesn't look like the work together is super smooth between these riders. They're even attacking each other a little bit. But we're also missing Jaco Alula from this group.
And no Michael Matthews.
Oh no, sorry, we do have Mauro Schmidt. He's got that red jersey, so it's easy to confuse. So we do have Jaco Alula in this group. I'm sure he would love a little bit of redemption over Jonas Abramson for the victory at the Tour de France, stage 11. He's actually a watch and art collector. Very Swiss of him. However, they tell me that he's not very punctual, which is not very Swiss.
That's very counterintuitive. I mean, if you're a watch collector and you can't get there on time, come on.
That's what happens when you keep the watches in the cases.
Yeah. Or if you're not a battery collector, so you don't have anything to make them run.
I have a feeling the watches he's collecting, they don't have any batteries.
Could be. All right, so still have ice in Sevilla here out front, but just about a minute back to a large chasing group of some high-profile riders with 46 miles left to go.
Yeah, they're not too far away from these guys now. A couple of drops you see on the lens. I mean, those are some big storms. We can look out the booth here. We see nothing but gray coming towards the city of Baltimore. So this could be an interesting development as we get into the last third of this race, and this is really when the action is going to start heating up, and we see it happen already. I'm just wondering, where is Big Red? Quinn Simmons, I keep talking about him all day, but it's just because I know that he wants it.
Could it be that he just missed the move? And then it's a matter of how far is that group of 11 ahead of the rest of the field at this point. Latest gap we got was from these two leaders back to this chase group you see on the left-hand side of the screen, and that was a minute or so, but no real word on how far the chase is ahead of the field. And more raindrops here. I tell you what, if we get wind and rain, and especially some of the gusty winds that are in the forecast, even hail and lightning, it could be quite a mess. Wet roads and wet cobbles for the final laps could really be tricky.
Yeah, it looks to me like these guys are rolling pretty well together. Nielsen Paulus sitting on the back there. We know he's been on the podium the last two editions of this race. He wants to win this race. He's in a good position for it.
All right, so the chasers making some inroads on the two leaders here on this fourth lap. So the chasing group slowly whittling away the lead. Bison Sevilla, the day's signature breakaway. But the rain slowly starting to move in.
Looks like that rider from Lidl Trek is Patrick Conrad. I think he's a late addition to the roster. Thibaut Nice was originally supposed to be here. So it's a great performance for him, having just been a last-minute call-up.